Hello, BookTube. I went back to the Brattle Bookshop early this morning. Those of you who are new to the channel, this is a great used bookstore in the heart of Boston, right down the street from Boston Common. It's got three stories of stock that are constantly turning over, and it also has a sale lot outside with $1, $3, and $5 books that are also constantly turning over, and also that present you with all kinds of rituals because the books are slowly marked down. So a book that starts out in the sale lot at $5 will gradually, if it sticks around, be marked down to $3 and then $1. And at the back of the lot, lurking, waiting for all of these, is a dumpster for the ones that don't sell at any price. And over the decades, I've been going to the Brattle for a very long time. And over the decades, I have developed a kind of informal book watching strategy that informs me in a couple of ways. I will see, for instance, a bank of new $5 books, let's say. And I will say, A, I would buy all of those if they were $1 a piece, but I'm not going to buy them at $5 a piece. And I wonder if I wait that long, will they get down to $1? And B, in a more market studying sense, where I look at these things and think, okay, once upon a time, in a bookstore, I sold these things new, and I saw customers come in for them. Here they are for $5 a piece, and I wonder if they will stick around. I wonder if the traffic through this sale lot will just not be interested in them. So two sides of the same coin, really. On the one hand, thinking, well, I'll buy those if they get to $1, and on the other hand, thinking, I wonder if they'll get to $1 before somebody grabs them. I got to watch things like that. That really pays off if you're going to the Brattle every day. I used to go to the Brattle every day at lunch, or almost every day, so that I could see things like that happening. I recently took a 2-week break from the Brattle so that I could go to Vermont. So a lot of the books there are new to me, and sometimes when I see books there, even for $1, some weird mood or frame of mind will cause me to pass on them. Usually the thought in my mind is, how much are you going to have to carry? Which is a great thought to have when you're buying books. And then I find I get back to wherever home is, and I'm just tormented thinking, well, you shouldn't have left those. You should go back and get those next time you're at the Brattle if they're there. So this I've got a bunch of books to show you, and a lot of them represent different aspects of all of that. Like, for instance, the first 4 are books that I saw at the Brattle the last time I was there, and left them. I only got one of these. Last Brattle mail haul, or Brattle book haul that you saw me do, I showed you this, The Best of Cordwainer Smith. These old Del Rey books where the editors put together a big, generous, usually well-curated volume of the best of some classic science fiction author. And I mentioned at the time that Cordwainer Smith is by far the best author who was ever represented in this series, but a lot of authors were. It was a big series. It was a hit. And I saw, when I got that book, a whole bunch of others, and I left them. And it was only when I got back here and was reading the Cordwainer Smith that I realized that even though I don't like any of the other authors as much as I like Cordwainer Smith, I have at different times loved different things that each of them has written, and I'm never going to see these paperbacks again. So I went back when I was there today and grabbed them all. So we have The Best of C.M. Kornbluth. These are science fiction authors, most of whom are not in print anymore at all. The Best of John W. Campbell. I mentioned him the other day. He was a racist in real life. Those of you who read Alec Navala-Lee's Astounding will know he could be very unsavory. He wrote terrific fiction, including this collection, like every other John Campbell collection, has Who Goes There, which is the story that was the basis for 3 different movie adaptations called The Thing. He could be a very good science fiction author, and no one will ever reprint him again, not in the 21st century, where you've got to be willing to take someone to the prom in order to call them a good author. Then we have The Best of Fred Pohl. He's probably up there with Cordwainer Smith at times for how good he can be. And finally, The Best of Murray Leinster. This one's in a little bit of rough shape, but I will fix it just a bit. And there are probably quite a few stories in here that I haven't read. Murray Leinster is not a sci-fi author that I really know. But I went back and got these. And of course, if other entrants in this Best of series show up, I'll get them too. because you're never going to see anything like this again, at least not in mass market paperback with these dorky covers. Then I got a bit of nonfiction by W.H. Auden. This is The Dyer's Hand and Other Essays. These, what are these, vintage? Yeah, these old vintage paperbacks. They did a few of volumes of the nonfiction of W.H. Auden, which I just love. I think his nonfiction is incredible. This has essays of all sorts of literary appreciations, stuff like that, reviews, because, as I've mentioned, even when you were a famous author, most famous authors still avail themselves of the ability to write those reviews and cash a quick $50. So Auden did for most of his life, and there's a vast amount of it. There's a gigantic trade paperback of his collected nonfiction that I keep looking for. I've had it from time to time. I don't have it at the moment, but it would belong in this room. It would belong in that bookcase with books about books. And then another mass market that I got mainly because it's been a long time since I read it, and also I love the cover. And this is The Corridors of Power by C.P. Snow. This is a novel in a long, protracted series of his called Brothers and Strangers. And it's not, as he points out in the introduction to the little preface to this book, the title is not a cliche because it comes from Snow. Snow gave us the phrase Corridors of Power. And it's the story of a British MP who has an affair, an extramarital affair, and is therefore intensely blackmailable. But it's set against the backdrop of the politics of British nuclearization, of nuclear power and nuclear weapons in the Britain of the middle of the 20th century. And if I remember correctly, critics didn't particularly like this entry in the series. They liked a lot of others, but not this one. And it has been forever. This came out in, I think, 1962 or 63. It's been forever since I read this. An entire half century. 1964. This came out in 1964. So, this mass market is exactly the kind of thing that I would want. I'm not in love with C.P. Snow at all. So I doubt that I want to keep it. I doubt that I would suddenly read it and think, oh my, here's an author who now finally speaks to me. I don't think that'll happen. But I think it'll just be curiosities, in which case a quick paperback that I can read and then either give back to the Brattle or get rid of would be the perfect thing. But not all the rest of them are hardcovers. All the rest of our books are hardcovers, including this one from Yale University Press, which I let go when I first got it, and that was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. This is by Marjorie Heffern, and this is Louisa Catherine, the other Mrs. Adams. This is a great biography that the author unfortunately left unfinished at her death. A biography of the wife of John Quincy Adams, who until 2016 was the only First Lady of the United States who was not born a citizen, who was foreign. There are still more precedents that are broken in the current White House, where the First Lady is not only foreign born, which breaks the record by Louisa Catherine, but also actually financially owned by her husband. The current First Lady of the United States is technically an owned piece of property of her husband. That hasn't been true at all in American history until now. This would have been a much longer book if Marjorie had lived to finish it. But it's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And I reviewed it when it first came out with great sadness, and I got rid of it. I think I gave it to somebody. So I'm glad to have this again. I don't usually go in much for First Lady biographies, but I'll make an exception in this case. So I'll just put it with the American President biographies. This next one is also a biography. Sort of, kind of. It was published by the Boston Globe. It was written by Edward Weeks, who we've seen on this channel. You probably won't remember him, but he has a couple of books in this room. He was the editor of Atlantic for a long time, the great Boston literary and political journal. And he took the brief to take the dictation, the wandering stories, the anecdotes of Leverett Saltonstall, former governor, former senator, a great Republican politician. Edward Weeks took the brief to take all of that stuff and transform it into a book, which is called Salty, Recollections of a Yankee in Politics. And this is an ex-library copy. I have only ever seen this book in libraries, so I'm thrilled to have my own copy. This is an inimitable viewpoint of a formative period in American politics by a guy that the Saltonstalls are as Boston Brahmin as you get. So, you know, Leverett Saltonstall need not have had a profession. And Edward Weeks, I love his writing anyway, and I don't think I've ever read this. I've seen it in libraries, but I don't think I've ever pulled it down and actually read it. And I think probably when I saw it in libraries, I just routinely thought, well, you should read it here because you're never going to see it for sale. You're never gonna be able to find a used copy of this thing, and there it is. So I will read it now. And then this next one is a trifle. It's tiny. It won't take any time to read. It looks like fun. It's called A Busted Bibliophile by George Sargent. A tiny, tiny little thing about being a bibliophile, about being a book collector, that has an inscription from the editors at the very beginning. It is only fair to say, busted here means broke. It is only fair to say in explanation of the title of this little book that Mr. Newton chose it for himself upon the occasion of his selling some years ago some duplicate volumes from his library. His busting could not have been very serious, however, or he quickly recovered therefrom, for shortly after he paid the highest price ever recorded for a first folio of Shakespeare. So this is a series of the author's anecdotes and observations about being a book collector. There's been a little rash of books like that at the Brattle, and this one, I've never heard of it before. I can't wait to just gobble it down. And then the last three hardcovers that we have here, I'll show them to you. They're huge, they're heavy, and they were a perfect example of what I talked about, where you watch $5 books make their slow way to the $1 cards, and you wonder if anybody's going to buy them, no matter how popular they were in their heyday. And these are a perfect example because these are Will Durant. Will Durant and his wife wrote The History of Civilization in multiple volumes. And I have said for a while now, for probably about a year, that I wanted to own those books. I want to own that series. It's a huge amount of erudition. It's a huge amount of readable prose. And whether or not the historical judgments still hold up, that's an amazing achievement. It's never quite been anything like it, before or since. And I thought to myself, well, okay, wait, because the full set will show up at the Brattle, and then wait even more because you want dust jackets on those books, and that's a lot rarer. It's a lot rarer to find Will Durant books with dust jackets. And then I thought, maybe wait even more than that. Instead of just dust jackets, what about laminated dust jackets so that you don't have to do anything with them yourself? And I found Caesar and Christ, which is volume 3 in the story, after the volumes on the ancient world of Egypt and Assyria, and after the volume on Greece. And this one has a dust jacket, but no plastic. I will have to reinforce this myself. And this is about ancient Rome. This is the Durant's history of ancient Rome. But these other two volumes are exactly what I was looking for. There's The Age of Reason Begins, with Francis Bacon on the cover. It's really about the English Renaissance. And the Renaissance itself, the Italian Renaissance, with Michelangelo on the cover. And these things have dust jackets, and they have laminated covers. And they were $1 a piece. All three of these were $1 a piece. So I grabbed them because, you know, if I say that I want to add Will Durant's History of Civilization to my library, and I am not willing to buy them at $1 with dust jackets, then I do not want to add them to my library. That's when you know whether or not your conviction is real. And when I saw these, I did. I admit, I was still worried about lugging things, about how heavy this whole bag would be. So I only grabbed my favorite 3 volumes. It won't kill me if the others aren't there the next time I go back to the Brattle, because they'll go to somebody else. I just hope they don't get thrown away, because no one wanted these at $5, and no one wanted them at $3. It was only $1 that somebody wanted them. So anyway, that is your Brattle book haul for today. I will not be going back to the Brattle for a few days, so I thought I would stop in today and get these things, and I found some things I really liked. So I'm gonna wrap this video up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.